Welcome to Lesson 15 on probability. We're going to start with key ideas on page 408. As you can see, probability is the probability of an event is a number that measures the likelihood that the event will occur. Probabilities are between 0 and 1, including 0 and 1. The diagram that you can see here relates likelihood to a word, right? So you can see that something that is 0, a likelihood of 0, is impossible, or it's a 0%. 1 in 4 chance, 1 out of 4, is also 0.25, which gives us the percent of 25%, is unlikely to happen. Then we look at in the middle where it's 1/2, or 0.5, which is 50%. It's equally likely to happen. So it could happen and it could not. Equal chance of happening. Likely, we get to 3/4, 0.75, 75%. And then at 1, we know that when we put 1 as a percent, it comes out to 100%. And so we know that it's certain. It's going to happen for sure if something is 100% likely. Looking at example 1 on page 408, we're going to use the information from the continuum that we just discussed. So looking at example 1 here, we see that there is an 80% chance of thunderstorms tomorrow, and it asks us to describe the likelihood of the event. Therefore, since it's 80%, we match that up on the continuum, and we know that 80% is greater than the 75%, so we would say that it is likely to happen. It is not certain because it is not 100%. We would stick with it is likely to happen. Go ahead and try the two on your own problems right now. For on your own number 1, you should have gotten equal chance likely or equally likely to happen. And then for number 2, you should have gotten certain. It will certainly happen. All right, we have a second key idea on page 408. This key idea is finding the probability of an event. So the way that we do that is we take the favorable outcomes over the possible number of outcomes. All right, so for example, number of outcomes, number of favorable outcomes, if we go back to that idea of flipping a coin, right, the favorable outcomes of getting a heads, there's only one heads in the coin, so it would be 1 over, right, 1 would be in the numerator. The denominator would be 2 because there's 2 options. There's 2 possible outcomes, the heads and the tails. So for this, the probability would be 1/2, which would be equally likely. Looking at example 2 and 3 on page 409, first up, example 2, finding a probability. It's quite simple when you look at it this way, but you must know that there are 6 faces to a cube. So you have an opportunity to roll 6 different numbers, 1 through 6. That's the number of possible outcomes, which would be the denominator. It's asking us what is the probability of rolling an odd number. There are 3 odd numbers, 1, 3, and 5, that we have the possibility of rolling. So our probability of rolling an odd is 3 out of 6. When we simplify 3 out of 6, we get 1/2. So it is equally likely of rolling an odd number at 1 out of 2, or 50%. Looking at example 3, using a probability. The probability that you randomly draw a short straw from a group of 40 straws is 3 out of 20. How many are short straws? So we have a multiple choice. It's either 4, 6, 15, or 34. So you can see here, they said the probability of a short equals the number of short straws over the total number of straws. Well, we knew that the chance or the probability was 3 out of 20, so they set up a proportion. 3 over 20 is equal to n over 40. We let n be the number of short straws. As we look at that, we can take 20 times 2 to get 40, so we know then that 3 times 2 is 6. So there would be a total of 6 straws. So the final answer would be B. At this point, go ahead and try it on your own problems and then start working on the assignment.